Well, as we count down to that announcement by the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission will announce the results of 95 by-elections held across the country yesterday. The polls were seen as setting the stage for next year's local government elections. The IEC has said it is satisfied at the way in which voting took place across the country. Let's now cross to our colleague monitoring the announcement of the results, Natasha Phiri. A very good morning to you. I've seen you've tweeted a lot about the preliminary results, but of course we're awaiting the official announcement this afternoon. Take us through what we can expect today for these results.
Definitely, Desiree, all anticipating those results that will be taking place at 12 noon, I beg your pardon, where Chief Electoral Officer of the IEC, Mr. Saimamabolo, will be briefing the media on those results. And you've correctly said that, I mean, in the morning we have been tweeting preliminary results as SABC News. And it seems as if the ANC has actually come out winning big in these by-elections which took place in 95 wards across 55 municipalities in all 9 provinces. It seems as if the ANC has lost 2 wards in the Eastern Cape and KZN, but has come out winning big in Gauteng, in the Northern Cape and in the Northwest. The biggest losers, unfortunately, for these elections is the Democratic Alliance. It's lost big in 9 wards across Gauteng, Northern Cape and the Northwest. Now, Des, I mean, this is quite interesting because, as you know, they've been dealt a blow at the 2019 national elections just last year. Their participation from 2014, which was around 23%, actually decreased to about 20.77%. So this is just another blow that they've been dealt with. And I mean, Desiree, this comes at an interesting time where just 2 weeks ago we saw the election of John Steenhuisen as the new federal leader. And remember, we heard from the federal chairperson, Ivan Meyer, saying that as the DA, they want to chart a new way forward. They want to reconnect with their voters, and I suppose they were hoping to actually win big at these by-elections and possibly get those votes that they had lost to the FF Plus, but it doesn't seem so. I mean, let's just take the JB Marks municipality in the Northwest, for example. I mean, the support for the DA in 2016 was at 78%. For the FF Plus in that region, it was 38%. But of course, the numbers have turned, and glaring numbers, might I say. The support now for the FF Plus is actually at 59%. And for the DA is at 8%. So I mean, this is just the magnitude showing you how the DA has actually lost within that various municipality. But coming to the city of Johannesburg, I mean, what's quite interesting when we look at Ward 9, which is actually in Lenasia South, it was now a former DA ward. Al Jamaa had actually won it over. And for those who don't know Al Jamaa, it's a political party by Hanif Hendricks, a Muslim-based political party, actually, might I say. Let's look at Ward 41, Desiree, which is in Middlelands and Dobsonville. The ANC had retained that ward. We look at Ward 68 in Riverlea, which has now been taken over by the Patriotic Alliance, Gayton Mackenzie's Patriotic Alliance, and has now taken over the DA. We look at Lenasia, which was a former DA ward, which is now taken over by the ANC. And lastly, Ward 130, which is now retained by the ANC. So this is just painting a picture of how much the DA had actually lost towards these by-elections, but just various reactions from various political parties. We know that the ANC's head of election, Mr. Figi Lembalula, will be briefing the media at 1:30 today at Luthuli House. So members of the media will actually just tune into that briefing. I know as the SABC, my colleague Abongile Dumako will be giving you the latest in terms of that result. In terms of the EFF not winning any ward across the country, but quite interestingly so, yesterday if I'll just read you something that the party's, the DA's Federal Council Chairperson Helen Zille had posted on social media. Desiree, she says that there are particularly tough battles we are fighting on all fronts. We do not expect to retain all wards that we won the landslide 2016. However, we are hoping to contain our losses. The DA is in the process of consolidating to lay a solid foundation for future growth. She says that today she will be giving a brief analysis of those results, which is quite surprising, Desiree, because you'd think that John Steenhuisen, as the party's federal leader, would be the one who's actually giving those results. But in terms of the IEC's official and their sentiments, they're quite satisfied with voter participation, although it was quite uneven, might I say. But yesterday I had the opportunity of speaking to the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Phiri, and just taking us through the process, saying that they were very happy with the compliance by the voters, by those over 600,000 voters that made it to the polling stations. They had said that they had minor glitches, and when we talk about minor glitches, we talk about those incidences that we saw in Naledi and in Amahlathi in the Eastern Cape, where various community members had barricaded other community members from going into voting stations to vote. We saw in Naledi a heavy police presence. There was a service delivery protest saying that as long as the people of Naledi do not get electricity, there will be nobody who actually goes and votes. We later saw the the chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng, Mr. David Makura, and his entourage of ANC members like Matshidiso Mfekwe actually going and speaking to the people of Naledi. So these are just some of the things that we expect the IEC to actually talk on, as we know that they've used this by-elections as a template for next year's local government elections. But not only next year's local government elections, the by-elections that are taking place in December and that will be taking place next year in January, Desiree.
Interesting that you mentioned that Helen Zille tweet. I wanted to ask you about it in the overall narrative of the decline of the Democratic Alliance in this particular by-election, but also tie it up to conversation that's currently taking place on social media. Mmusi Maimane is trending with some DA members blaming him for this decline. The very man who was at the helm when the DA delivered really three metros in a previous local election, and his response here saying you reap what you sow. What's the conversation that's taking place around the Helen Zille explanation? Juxtapose it to the Mmusi Maimane conversation.
I'm struggling to hear you there quite well, but Desiree, all I heard was Mmusi Maimane's tweets and Helen Zille. But it is quite ironic, Desiree, because I mean, remember, Mmusi Maimane had stepped down. One of the reasons he had stepped down was because of the loss at the polls, at the 2019 polls last year. As I've earlier indicated, that the DA's supporter percentage from 2014 to last year had actually decreased from about 23% to 20.77%. And then he had to leave as one of those reasons. But it's quite ironic right now that the same man that they were blaming for the loss of the polls is now tweeting that, you know, you reap what you sow. Look at what's happening right now. He's left the party, he's left the DA, but still the DA support at the polls seems to be, you know, just going down. I remember when you were speaking to a couple of analysts like Professor Levi Ndo, when John Steenhuisen was actually elected as the federal leader of the Democratic Alliance, and he had said that, listen, this is a sign now that the DA was actually consolidating its white votes, and it's going back to its basis of having you know, the white interests at heart. So is this a sign of that? I mean, it's quite glaring. It's quite interesting that the FF plus votes are actually increasing. I think the DA had hoped to win back those votes from the FF plus, but this is not the case, and it's not so. So it'd be quite interesting to actually hear what Helen Zille, the Federal Council chairperson, will have to say about this. But I mean, lots of conversations, people raising questions. I mean, my colleague Samgele Masego earlier on in a tweet had said that he finds it strange that the federal leader, John Steenhuisen, is not the one who would be addressing the media, but instead it would be the Federal Council chairperson, Helen Zille. So I guess we'll just have to read in between the lines and connect the dots as the general public, Desiree.
Natasha, will be following that story. Thank you so much for that update.